everybody. So excited to be here tonight. It's our final performance of 2023. Yay! We made it. So I'm super excited tonight to share the stage with this wonderful string quartet, Dalí Quartet, and a special guest, clarinetist Ricardo Morales. Welcome to the library. We're super excited to be here with you. As you know, the Dalí Quartet is here to perform our Stradivari anniversary concert. They've been here since Friday working with the instruments, rehearsing Friday, Saturday, and Monday. So they will tell us about their experience pretty soon. The Dalí Quartet is here to perform our Stradivari anniversary concert. The Dalí Quartet is the 2023 recipient of the ACMP Foundation's Susan McIntosh Loy Award for Excellence and Diversity in Chamber Music. The 2021 recipient of the Chamber Music America's Guarneri String Quartet Residency, founded by the Sewell Family Foundation, and the 2021 Silver Medal at the inaugural Piazzolla Music Competition. Trained by world-renowned artists, members of the Dalí Quartet are from Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and the US. The quartet serves as a faculty at West Chester University Wells School of Music as the quartet in residence. Tonight, they share the stage with the principal clarinet of the Philadelphia Orchestra, Ricardo Morales. He joined the Philadelphia Orchestra as principal clarinet in 2003 and made his solo debut with the orchestra in 2004. He previously served as the principal clarinet of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. During his tenure with that ensemble, he soloed at the Carnegie Hall on 2 European tours. He has been also featured soloist with the Chicago Symphony, Cincinnati Symphony, Indianapolis Symphony, Seoul Symphony, Columbus Symphony, the Memphis Symphony, and the Flemish Radio Symphony. Ricardo, welcome back to the library. So before we get started, can you please introduce yourself and tell us which instrument you will be playing tonight?
So my name is Adriana Linares. I will be playing the viola, the Casavetti.
Hi, my name is Carlos Rubio. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I'm going to be playing the Castelbarco from 1699.
My name is Ari Isaacman Beck. I'm originally from Minnesota. And I'm going to be playing the Betz Stradivarius from 1704.
My name is Jesus Morales. I am the cellist, so I will be playing on the Castelbarco cello from 1697.
So as I mentioned before, and for the ones who are here tonight and the ones watching from home, every year for our anniversary concert, we have our musicians come in and spend time with the instruments. And this is a journey for each one of them. They spend time, hours, getting to know the instruments, and also the violinists choosing which one they want to play. So I would love for them to share their journey, how they started, and where they are now after 3 days getting to know these wonderful instruments.
You want to start? Okay, I will start. Well, I was actually the first one to show up, so I had the pleasure of staying in this room for about 2.5 hours the first day on Friday. And the interesting thing about this instrument is that it has no limitations, only my own. And the more I play it, the more I could actually acquire everything that I had in my mind that I was trying to achieve. And it's a big difference from my previous instruments because it's the large, very large pattern that he had started with. So I also had to get used to the size. But again, it's one of the definitely the most amazing instrument I have ever played. And I can say that I've been lucky enough to have tried many different instruments in my career, both on loan, and I keep current. I visit shops quite often to see what they have, so that I can always have my ears open and get the experience. But this cello definitely is the top.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a beautiful instrument, and the bass is phenomenal. It's interesting for me getting to do this. I have played on Stradivarius and Guarneri instruments before, but not at this kind of length and with this kind of compressed intensity. And what's been interesting to me is that there have been some times where I've played on a really wonderful Stradivarius violin that I loved, right next to another really wonderful Stradivarius violin that didn't feel right to me. And that was not at all my experience here. So it's wonderful with the Ward and the Castelbarco and also the Betz, the 3 Stradivarius violins. When we first got here, Carlos and I started with the ones that we're playing.
The ones that we're playing, yeah.
And and spent probably 30 to 40 minutes with each of them when we switched, and then we moved over to the Ward. And for me, it was really interesting because I fell in love with the Betz right away, but I was also kind of like, well, this feels quite different from my own violin. And so when we started playing around, the Castelbarco actually felt more similar to what I was accustomed to. But there was something about the Betz in the sweetness and the power of it, but also the roundness and the kind of the focus and intensity, but the bass underneath it in the sound that I found really captivating. And it was interesting because then that was my experience experimenting with all 3 of those instruments a little bit individually. Was different than when we sat down in the quartet. And then we started playing them, and we started, and I was like, oh, I don't know, the Betz feels really strange to me when we first started playing the quartet. And so then Carlos was like, yeah, I don't know, I mean, can I use the Castelbarco for a second, try that? And he was like, yeah, so, then I tried that, and I was like, feels great, but it also feels kind of strange. And then the Ward, and finally, after trying all of them, came back to the Betz, and I was like, yeah, this is it, this is good. So it's a little bit like speed dating, because, we've got this concert coming up, so you're going to perform, but you've got to get to know each other really fast. And now after 3 pretty extended days of spending time with the instruments, I'm going to be really sad to not see it tomorrow.
Didn't know about speed dating. Good. So very similar. I'm the second violin of the quartet. So for me, I actually a little bit of what Jesus mentioned before. I had in mind this large, deep bass. That's what the most I was kind of interested in, looking for one of those 3 instruments. I never played it before. So that was the first instrument that I played, the Castelbarco, and I was like, wow, this is it. I mean, of course, I do really want to try the other ones. Such an amazing experience. But right away, I was like, well, I mean, this is huge GS string. Is it, the register, a little bigger than my instrument, so when Ari mentioned before, so it gets to adjust a little bit. I mean, the distance, probably Adriana is going to talk a little bit about that. She's the one who has a little more different with the instrument. But so trying to arrange a little bit of the hand position and the way with the bow, how much pressure and stuff like that. But right away, there was something about the Castelbarco that, to me, it really felt like, not that this is a second violin instrument, but I just really felt what I was really had in my mind about this round, beautiful, powerful, clear sound.
Yeah, so for me, being a violist, we have to deal with the fact that all violas are different sizes. It could range from 15-inch to 17-inch or even more. And I actually practiced before with Ari's viola. That's a little bit bigger because I was confused and told that maybe the viola was bigger than my viola. My viola is a 15.5, which is small for being a viola. So I was pleasantly surprised because I was a little bit worried about that, and there are issues from positioning and distances and shifting and all that you may not know about. But so I was concerned about that, and to my surprise, the size of the viola was small. It's on the smaller size of a viola. So that was great, and immediately I could feel very comfortable with the distances, and I didn't have to worry about that. But the second thing I had to kind of think about was because my viola that I use is a little wider in here, the device that we used to help with the shoulder rest did not fit. So we had to actually do a little bit of, carpentry. And Ari fixed a little bit of the size of my shoulder rest and made it smaller. And hopefully we're able to adjust so that I have better support with it. Other than that, I have just been having a blast thinking as I was driving here. I came from Venezuela 30 years ago, and I had a $200 instrument. And even up to my grad school, I studied with a teacher from the Curtis Institute of Music. with a $500 viola. I played for him, and he said, "You need another viola." He helped me buy another viola. Then I got this other viola that is great, and I was slowly able to afford it. And here I am playing a Stradivarius viola. So that's all I was thinking. Thank you. Yeah.
If I can add one more thing, this is also the first time that the four of us are actually playing with the best instruments there are. So there is a big difference between just playing on the instrument on your own, which I have done before, but to have all of us, to have the most amazing tools to be able to make, this is a very special occasion.
Ricardo, as I said before, this is your third time at the library, right? You're welcome back. Your second time was in 2012, I believe. And I see a pattern going on over here. Ricardo Morales, Jesus Morales, the cellist. Now the program has a piece from Sonia Morales Matos. So, and I'm Claudia Morales. So, what is happening? Can you explain what is your relationship with these individuals? Not me in this case, but those other individuals.
Well, I'm very lucky to be able to call Jesus my brother. He's my younger brother, and Sonia is our older sister, which we've been very, very lucky to have as a nice musical and spiritual guide.
And I think you have an annual project with the string quartet. Can you tell us about that?
We have many opportunities to have to do concerts to outreach for people, and we have been extremely lucky to have the opportunities to share in different scenarios and different venues, and it's a mission of the quartet to be able to reach other people, etc. So we are always very happy to be able to share.
We have played all the quintets, almost all the quintets with him. And we recorded the Brahms is coming up, but yeah, we're lucky in that way.
That's fabulous. That's great. Carlos, I know that you, growing up, you went through El Sistema.
Yeah.
How did that experience influence the musician that you are today, or your vision as a musician?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, El Sistema is such a unique system that we have in Venezuela. I was lucky enough to start when I was just elementary school, a kid, and there is music around all the time, everywhere. So for me, it was right after school, I would just go. There was no other thing. It would just go to the conservatory and right after school and spend all day playing with my friends, learning. So it was all 24/7 pretty much. I was able to, I was a member of the Simón Bolívar Orchestra for many years before I moved to the state. Record CDs, I played, under amazing, conductors. So, I mean, all these rich opportunities, traveling and be surrounded by amazing musicians and be able to obtain all these music. I don't know, it's very unique and very special for me.
And I know the quartet is pretty soon celebrating 20 years. And Adriana and Carlos, you are the founding members. How do you guys meet?
Well, I first met him because I went to a school in Venezuela where he was a teacher and I was a student. He was a young teacher and I was almost graduating.
It was my first job.
We should clarify. Okay, we are not that far apart. So we met briefly there, but I think it was 1999, I was at Indiana University finishing my studies, and they had a quartet with all Venezuelan members called Cuarteto America, and they needed a violist, and I played with them for about 2 years. Then I moved to the area, to the Philadelphia area, and to pursue my master's, but I still had the seed that I wanted to play in quartets, and we loved working with each other. So we started in 2004. We decided to form a quartet with all Latin American members at the time, with the mission to promote and represent and be ambassadors for composers from Latin American works, rare works that would never otherwise be heard. In addition to being trained, having been trained classically, because we both in Venezuela were trained classically and came to conservatories and universities here in the United States to, of course, perform Beethoven and all the standard repertoire, we felt the need to represent and promote this sort of work, and we did. So here we are 20 years later, still, and so it's a total of about 23 years that we've worked together. And Jesus came on board in 2008, so it's been a while. And Ari is the baby of the quartet. He's only 4 years old.
And speaking of which, I think tonight's program is a real treat. I really enjoyed working with them on creating the program, and the pieces that you will hear tonight are totally light. And we are going to start the program with Sonia's piece, Divertimento Caribeño, number 3. And Jesus, maybe you can share with us some areas that maybe the audience can pay attention to and look after for this piece.
Yes, she actually did this work for the quartet in 2018, and it's in a three-part form, and it's actually a merengue, which is a fast dance, and then in the middle there's a bolero, which is a slow dance, and then we return to the fast pace to end the piece. But the title of it is also Merengue Apambichao, which means it's a merengue, but it's a little bit in the slower side, so it's not the usual neck-breaking speed that you have to dance, and it's a great workout. But she was originally thought of it as a saxophone quartet, and then as she developed it for the quartet, then it gave her a lot more chances to change the texture. So we have a lot of singing playing, but we also have pizzicato, some special effects. So it's a very contagious kind of music. So I just won't tell you anymore, so that you're very surprised with what's going to happen.
Then into the first part of the program, we continue with Weber, the clarinet quintet, and then we go from Germany to Cuba with Paquito de Rivera, Preludio y Merengue. I always forget that word, I don't know why. So, Ricardo, can you guide us through this process? So we're going to go from Weber to Paquito, back to back.
Well, first, I just want to say that I was very grateful to be able to, that you were able to bring to the collection for me to see Weber's first clarinet concertos. I was sorry over the moon today, just taking photos of it and double checking what are the things I have been taught and what the things that I play and the things I don't play that are in this course. But it has been fantastic to be able to do that. And well, the Weber wrote this piece which is it was written for Heinrich Bergmann, who was a clarinet virtuoso at the time, and he, even though he wanted to promote the actual virtuosity of the clarinet, because it was like a new instrument to come into the scene, he also tried to exploit the singing qualities of the instrument. And but it finishes with a little bit of a flashy ending and just a lot of fun. And Paquito's piece, Paquito's a virtuoso in his own right, phenomenal musician, clarinet player, saxophone player, just a great composer, and he is always having fun. So that is the one thing that the two pieces have in common. They have a happy, go-lucky spirit and virtuosity.
Actually, can I add something?
Yeah.
The merengue part of the Cuban writer, it's actually a Venezuelan merengue in 5/8. So in one section, you'll see Carlos turning the instrument to resemble a cuatro, which is a Venezuelan. So it's a 5/8 merengue, inspired because he loves Venezuelan music, I heard. And in the prelude, you'll hear a little bit of a Piazzolla influence as well, a little bit of a tango, and very jazzy, of course. Paquito's signature, you have to always have a little jazz in there.
And we were saying before that they spend time here at the library rehearsing and getting to know the instruments. And today, before they started, we had a very special display for them. We asked them, what would you like to see from our 20 million item collection that we have? And not just a few items, not that many to go through. So they decided to have 5 manuscripts that they wanted to see this morning. And you would have loved to see them when we had the manuscripts there set up for them before the rehearsal started. And it was just a joy. That's one of my favorite parts when I show these manuscripts and their reaction to, this is how you play it, and this is how it sounds. And can you please, Ari, tell us what was your reaction? What was your favorite from what you saw? Is there a favorite? That's a hard question to ask.
Yeah.
That you cannot. Let me raise that. What was your reaction?
Wow. You know, it's funny. There's so many things about this concert and this event that I and we have been so looking forward to. You know, to have the privilege to come and play these instruments that we don't normally get to play is just such a joy. And there, in the collection as well, there's also a violin by Fritz Kreisler that belonged to Fritz Kreisler, his Guarneri del Gesù, which got a chance to play today, which was to be able to play one of the most important violinists of the beginning of the 20th century. His violin was a really extraordinary experience too. But then to come in and actually, all this music that we study, and all these composers that, I'm not a religious person, but if I were, it would be like Mozart and Brahms and Beethoven, and you know, that would be my deity. And so to come in and to get to see Mozart's C major viola quintet, Mozart's C major viola quintet and the Brahms violin concerto, and Beethoven's Opus 130 string quartet. These are pieces that I have loved for most of my life. And it's amazing because just with the Brahms violin concerto, I was saying to Claudia a little earlier, when I first started my master's degree, I had studied with Ron Copes, the second violinist of the Juilliard Quartet. And the first piece that I began working on with him was the Brahms violin concerto. And so he said, oh, by the way, do you know the Library of Congress has digitized this manuscript? So you can look online and you can see Brahms's handwriting, but also the violinist for whom it was written, Joseph Joachim, has gone in with red pen and has made suggestions and changed and Brahms was like, this is great. And Joachim was an extraordinary and prolific composer as well. So it's not just, you know, somebody being like, well, I don't know, let's do a demo here. You know, I mean, it's actually somebody with like really intense musical thought. But then to hold a piece of, you know, to touch a piece of paper that Beethoven was holding, and to hold a piece of paper that Beethoven, I mean, there was a letter from Beethoven and his signature is there. And
It's really difficult to put into words, to
Yeah.
actually see their own handwriting and how different each of them are. And especially because, you know, we get the printed music, so it's always nice and clean, but to actually see blobs of who knows what on the page, you know, maybe a drop of wine, or who knows. But yeah, and also just to see how they would make corrections on their own music and their paper. Yeah, exactly. And they're all different. Like Mendelssohn was so clean and
Yeah.
perfect, and Mozart. But then you see Beethoven's fire is always, even in the pen. Like when he would scribble something out, it was a scribble. There is no doubt that he meant it.
And it's wild because when you're looking at it, I mean, with that string quartet, with that scherzo movement from Opus 130, I've played the piece a number of times, so I know what he wrote. So I can read what he wrote. But if I didn't, and if I hadn't played, I would have a really hard time. And one of the interesting things is Mendelssohn, among other things, was one of Beethoven's editors. And so, you know, I mean, you imagine that he had a lot of experience. I mean, he was also a wonderful sketch artist with pencil. And, I mean, so you see his, and he would X out with perfectly parallel lines every note that he didn't mean to have there. And Mozart, there were no mistakes, you know, I mean, like, but, you know, I mean, you could see where he would maybe smudged out some ink and then rewritten it. But for the most part, I mean, you look at this and it's like it just pours out of his mind. And he's like, this is how this goes. And the Brahms, it's like very clearly worked through. I mean, it's interesting because we learn about these things in school and learning about these composers, the pressures that these composers faced in their different lives and in their different time periods. And then to see the expression of that from their own hand is just, it's a transcendental kind of experience to feel like you can actually connect with these titans who move us so tremendously. And to get to connect with them that way too is just such an overwhelming pleasure and joy.
We don't have much time left, but I was curious to know if there's a question from the audience.
Wait for the microphone, please. Who's first?
Who's first? You go first? Okay.
Sorry about that. Recording, thank you.
Thank you. You talked about that you played on specific instruments. Did you bring your own implement, though, your own bows, or how did you match that up with the instrument that you chose?
We needed to bring our own bows. Yes. We did bring our own instruments because we needed to rehearse during a time that we were not going to be in here. But we made that a very brief. Just because we wanted to keep the taste, the feel of what we had just been experiencing for the past few days.
Next question, please.
I was at the museum in Paris, the Museum of Music, and it was interesting. They have a cello called Pellegrino, my last name. Have you ever played a Pellegrino?
No. But I would love to.
The lady down here.
Paquito de Rivera is, of course, a famous saxophone player. Did he write the piece for strings, or did you translate a saxophone piece into a string quartet?
Well, Paquito actually is a fantastic woodwind player. He's a famous saxophone player, but also a phenomenal clarinet player. Yes, and so he's very well versed on all the saxophones and clarinets.
But I believe he arranged it for this quintet himself, because when he goes on tour, whomever is with him, they usually play the repertoire in different kinds of ensembles. Mm-hmm. But this one he actually arranged himself.
Mr. Morales, which clarinet do you play these days?
So I play a clarinet made in Germany by F. Arthur Ubel. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I have a question about the cello. It's larger than the cello that you usually play. Can
Yes.
you explain how that affects your working with the instrument?
Well, fortunately, the difference is mostly in the bottom end of the instrument. So it didn't really affect my hand or the upper bout, but the bottom of the cello, it's like 2 inches. I mean, it's significantly bigger. But because of that, it also gives the bass of the instrument such an endless, bottomless sound, which is very, very impressive. I have never heard anything like it.
How does it change how you use the bow?
Yes, also because it's so low, I actually don't have to work as hard. So, I mean, I can work very little and it gives me a lot. So if I put in everything I have, it's a little too much.
And this might be the last question.
Out of curiosity, have these instruments been kind of modernized for the metal strings, or are they still the gut strings with the Baroque bows?
That's a great question. So if you look in the case over here, if everybody faces this wall, the glass case on the right has 2 different violins in it. On the left side is a Stradivarius, and in the middle is one made by Niccolo Amati. And so the center violin, the one that's higher, is set up with the Baroque setup, which would have been the original setup of the instrument. The violin on the left, so that you can see the 2 different setups, is with the modern setup, and that's the Ward Stradivarius that we're not using tonight. And so all the violins, both the violins and the viola and the cello are all set up with a modern setup. So they have metal strings, the bridges are a slightly different height and shape, and the neck and the fingerboard are different, are longer, and the neck angle is a little bit different, and all these things contribute to it having more tension in the strings, which supports being able to play in a larger space. And yeah, gives more resonance.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. Please give these wonderful musicians a round of applause.